Hello everyone. My name is Ayato Sakaki. I'm a consul at the Consulate General of Japan in Rio de Janeiro and an IP attaché of the Japan Patent Office. I began my career at the JPO in 2012. I've been working as a trademark examiner for more than 10 years. Then I was seconded to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and started my job in Rio de Janeiro in 2023. Today, I'll introduce non-traditional trademarks in Japan. Firstly, I'll begin by explaining overview. Secondly, I'll introduce some examples. Lastly, I'll discuss the critical points in the trademark examination guideline. In Japan, we accept word, figurative, 3D, sound, color pose, position, motion, and hologram marks. Among these marks, especially, we say 5 types of non-traditional trademarks for sound, color pose, position, motion, and hologram marks. The history of Japanese trademarks started in 1884. During the 100 years since then, we revised the trademark law many times, but in 1997, we introduced 3D marks. After that, we adopted non-traditional trademarks in 2015. So, JPO has about 10 years examination experience of non-traditional trademarks. In 2020, we revised the guideline to include new types of 3D trademarks, such as the exteriors of stores. It's similar to trade dress, but slightly different from it. Well, I'll explain statistical data. These graphs illustrate the number of applications and registrations for non-traditional trademarks. To date, we've accepted over 2,000 and registered 758 non-traditional trademarks. This graph displays the percentage of registrations. It's evident that sound, color pose, and position marks are challenging to register. Regarding color pose marks, only 11 marks have been registered in the past decade. Let me explain some examples of the 5 types of non-traditional trademarks. This is an example of a sound mark. This trademark belongs to the Japanese company that manufactures salonpas. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, even here in Brazil. You can check the sound mark by scanning the barcode. According to the guideline of sound marks, the trademark specimen should be described with 5-line stuff or letters, and applicants should submit a sound file at the same time as their application. This is an example of a color pose mark. It's a mark of famous Japanese stationery maker. In Japan, it's challenging to register color pose mark because it's necessary to be proved as a well-known mark. This is an example of a position mark. I think this mark is well known by many Brazilian people. Yes, it's Nissin Cup Noodle. This is an example of a motion mark. This mark signifies the toothpaste kills bacteria. This is an example of a hologram mark. This mark changes with temperature. It indicates a good temperature for drinking sake. By observing the mark, you can understand the ideal temperature. I'd like to introduce the examination guideline for non-traditional trademarks. Although there are many requirements for registration, it's not necessary to be familiar with every single detail. To successfully register a trademark, it's important to be aware of the most common mistakes. Therefore, I'll focus on the key requirements and provide you with 5 tips for successful registration. Before discussing the guideline in detail, I'll explain the examination flow. The differences between traditional trademarks and non-traditional trademarks are highlighted in red cells. To be concise, eligibility and consistency are examined additionally. However, distinctiveness is also a critical factor for non-traditional trademarks. Then, I'll discuss the 5 tips for registering non-traditional trademarks. 1. Please verify the eligibility of trademark specimen. Related to the eligibility in the examination flow, the guideline states how to describe a trademark specimen. This is one of the crucial requirements because amending the trademark specimen is not allowed after the application has been filed. 2. Please ensure sound files match the trademark specimen. Related to consistency in the examination flow, trademark specimen and sound file must be consistent. Regarding the requirement, it's possible to amend the sound file only to align with the trademark specimen. However, it's better to prepare the sound file precisely. 3. For color person marks, please apply for marks with combination of colors that are well known. Color person marks tend to be refused because of lack of distinctiveness. Generally, color lacks natural distinctiveness as a trademark. Therefore, distinctiveness must be acquired through use. In other words, it must acquire secondary meaning. 4. Sound marks. Please apply for marks containing distinctive linguistic elements. Non-linguistic sounds generally lack natural distinctiveness as a trademark, so they must acquire a secondary meaning. Therefore, it's better to apply for sound marks with linguistic elements. 5. To prove secondary meaning, these 3 facts must be demonstrated. 1. The trademark applied for and in use are identical. 2. The designated goods or services and goods or services in use are identical. 3. Nationwide recognition must be established. You can imagine that proving these facts is very challenging. As mentioned, there are numerous requirements for registering non-traditional trademarks, but at the first, I recommend understanding only these essential facts. To summarize, preparing appropriately in advance is the best strategy for non-traditional trademarks. Now, the JPO has not registered any non-traditional trademarks from Brazil. If you registered one, you'll become the first right holder from Brazil. We eagerly await your challenge. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for listening.